Have you ever wondered where the television signal you are watching is coming from?
Welcome to True North.
Good evening and welcome to Maine Watch.
It's away into the westerns, the place a man should go, where the fishing's always easy, they got no ice or snow, but I'll haul down the sail where the bays run together, bide away the days by the hills of Idaho. The Plymouth girls are fine, they put their hearts in your hand, and the Plymouth boys are able, first-class sailor every man, but I'll haul down the sail where the bays run together, bide away the days by the hills of Idaho. Oh, the trouble with old Martyr, you don't try her in a trawler, for those Bay of Biscay swells, they roll your head from off your shoulder. All down your sail where the bays run together, bide away the days by the hills of Idaho. So the winters drive you crazy, and the fishing's hard and slow. You're a damn fool if you stay, but there's no better place to go. All down you sail where the bays run together, bide away the days by the hills of Idaho.
I shall never forget that homeward passage back to Castine. I was first mate aboard the Lyda B, and Captain Phillips was at the command, but he was below decks in his cabin with a cruel rheumatism, and I was as good as in command. I went below decks with the lead and said, "Captain Phillips, we are too close in with the land. The fog is too thick, the wind is too fresh to be carrying so much canvas. May I shorten sail?" And he said, "Mr. Bliss, I want you to take that lead that you are carrying with you and heave it and bring it below and let me see it." Well, I heaved the lead myself, for I wished no slip-ups. And I brought it below and said, "Captain Phillips, it's 5 fathoms with sand, sir, and a cracking good breeze." "Let me see the lead, Mr. Bliss." Well, I passed it to him, and he held it in the palm of his right hand and scraped a bit of the sand out of the hollow at the bottom of the lead, which the lead had brought up from the ocean floor, and placed it on the end of his tongue. Staring at me with his steel-gray eyes, he said, "Mr. Bliss, don't you mean 7 fathoms?" Well, I subtracted 2 to be on the safe side, sir. "Right, Mr. Bliss, right. I am glad to find you so particular. We are close in with the land and cannot be too careful. Now I want you to keep this vessel northeast, half-east, straight as a gun barrel. You will come within earshot of the breakers off Castine in just 15 minutes' time. If you do not hear the sound of the breakers, then let me know it. An open ear for these breakers, Mr. Bliss, for we cannot be too careful, and bend on all sail, for we shall bring this vessel home in style." Well, I went back on deck, and sure enough, just 15 minutes had passed, and we heard the sound of breakers off Castine. "Luff! Luff and shaker!" I cried, and the vessel was brought to the wind in an instant and anchored, and the dark line of Castine to our stern told me that all was well. But I could not understand how the old man could navigate so well with nothing more than just a pinch of sand to go on. So I took the lead and spun it round my head like David and the sling and heaved it high on Castine shore, no more than 250 feet to our stern. I hauled it back aboard and brought it below to show the old man. "Captain Phillips, it blows spitefully in flaws and spits thick. We have gone more than 15 minutes' time and still have not heard the sound of breakers." "You have not held this vessel straight, Mr. Bliss. Now let me see that lead." Well, he took it and he scraped a bit more of the sand off the bottom in the little hollow and placed it on the end of his tongue and spat it in disgust all over the cabin floor. "Mr. Bliss, I take back what I said to you. You have held this vessel straight as a gun barrel. There is no fault in your steering. But I regret to inform you that Castine has sunk and we have sailed directly over Ma'am Hackett's compost heap."
This is a song from Newfoundland, too. It was written by a fellow named Otto Kelland, who was a fisherman, and is one of these characters that really likes his work.
Take me back to my western boat. Let me fish off Cape St. Mary's, where the hog downs sail and the foghorns wail, with my friends the Browns and the Clarys, in the swells of old St. Mary's. Let me feel my dory lift to the broad Atlantic combers, where the tide rips swirl and the wild duck furl, and the ocean calls the numbers, in the swells of old St. Mary's. Let me sail up golden bays, with my oilskins all a-streamin', from the thunder squall where I hauled me trawl, and the old Cape Ann a-gleamin', in the swells of old St. Mary's. Take me back to my western boat. Let me fish off Cape St. Mary's, where the hog downs sail and the foghorns wail. With my friends the Browns and the Clarys, in the swells of old St. Mary's.
I was clamming in the flats, and I come across a body in the kelp. It was face down, and before I turned it over, I decided to go up and make sure that it was not old Tom who tended the light on the point. I knocked on his door, and in 3 minutes, old Tom opened it up, and I said, "Tom, there's a body down in the rocks amongst the kelp." He said, "Was it wearing a red shirt?" "Yes." "Did it have green trousers?" "Yup." Gray hat still on him?" "Yes." "Dark hair?" "Uh-huh." "Did he have boots on?" I said, "Yes." "Was they low boots?" "Yes, they was." "Are you sure they were not high boots turned down low?" "Well, now come to think of it, Tom," I said, "they was high boots turned down low." "Oh," he said, "thank God it weren't me."
This is about a courtship. It's a Newfoundland song.
When I first came to Trinity in the brave old days of yore, it was there I took a stroll all around Green Island shore. It was there I met a pretty fair maid, she's the girl that I adore. A more handsome little female I never saw before. I've got as fine a bully boat as ever rode the ground. She can beat anything with sails from the horse chops to the sound. And what's more, I've got a big pool gun with a 5-foot barrel or more. And 'tis for your sake I'll shoulder her all around Green Island shore. I've got a feather bed, I've got a watch, and of a new house I've the frame. And I'll take you home to Robin Hood if you will share my name. And if Billy Hookey tries to win your heart, I'll leave him in his gore and sail far away from Trinity and the dear Green Island shore. To wed you now, dear Johnny, would be a poor lookout. For you have got 2 very small legs which scarce carry you about. And what's more, you cannot stand the cold of a cold and wintry day. I'd rather marry a weasel, so Johnny, go away.
Holman Day was the Rudyard Kipling of Maine. It was around the turn of the century that he wrote his most famous poem, The Kennebec Mariner. I guess I never told you, Sonny, of the stranding and the wreck of the steamboat Ezra Johnson that run up the Kennebec. That was for the time of steam cars, and the Johnson filled the bill on the route between Augusta and the town of Waterville. She was built old-fashioned model with a bottom flat to your palm, and a paddle wheel behind her drove by one great churning arm. Couldn't say that she was speedy, splashed along and made a touse. Couldn't go much faster than a man could tow a house. Still, she skipped and skived tremendous, dodged the rocks and skun the shoals in a way that boats of these days couldn't do to save their souls. Didn't draw no amount of water, went on top instead of through. This is how there come to happen what I'm going to tell to you. Ain't no need to keep you guessing, for I know you won't suspect how that thundering old Ez Johnson ever happened to get wrecked. She was overdue one evening. Fog come down most awful thick. 'Twas 'bout like navigating inside a feather tick. Proper caper was to anchor, but she seemed to run all right, so we humped her, kept her sloshing, though 'twas risky, through the night. Things went on all right till morning, but along about 3:30, the ship went dizzy, blind and crazy. Waves seemed worst I ever see. Up she went, and down she scuttered. Sometimes seemed to stand on end, then she'd wallops sideways, crossways, in a way, by gosh, to send shivers down your spine. Then she'd teeter, fetch a spring, and take a bounce, then squat down, sir, on her haunches, with a most Jerusalem jounce. Folks got up and run a-screaming, forced the wheelhouse, grabbed at me, thought we'd missed Augusta landing and had sailed clear out to sea. Fairly shot me full of questions, but I said was just a blow. Still, that didn't seem to soothe them, for there weren't no wind, you know. Yes, sir, spite of all that churning, weren't a whisper of a breeze. No excuse for all that upset and them strange and dreadful seas. Couldn't spy a thing around us. Everywhere 'twas pitchy black, and I couldn't seem to comfort them poor critters on my back. Couldn't give them information, for 'twas dark's a cellar shelf. Couldn't tell 'em nothin' about it, for I didn't know myself. So I gripped the Johnson's tiller, kept the rudder rigging taut, kept her prayin', chawed tobacco, give her steam, and let her swat. Now, my friends, just listen steady. When the sun come out at 4, we weren't tossin' in no breakers, off no stern and rock-bound shore. But I'd missed the gall-dern river, and I swear this here is true. We had sailed 8 miles cross-country in a heavy autumn dew. There I was, clear up in Sydney, and the tossins and the rolls simply happened 'cause we'd tackled several miles of cradle knolls. Sun come out and dried the dew up. There we was, a stranded wreck, and they soaked me $18 cartage to the Kennebec.
McLean was a Canadian. He had a little schooner. He used to run it with his son sometimes with another man. And as many other people did, he got in the rum running trade here. And he was caught. He was arrested and thrown in jail in Massachusetts, and his schooner was impounded and sold for auction. And it was 5 years he was in there. And when he got out, it took him 2 years to get back home. This is McLean's Coming. Now when the wind is bright with the spring and the snow has gone away, the days grow long and the time has come to hoist my sail and go. And I'll hear no more your dungeon door, nor eat your bitter beans. Surely it's a long and a windy road for the straits of Canso. I'll go down to the Naskeg Sound, where the tide runs fast and strong. The water's deep and the hills are steep and the nights are cold and long. And through the rocks of Jericho I'll wind my weary way. The roll are off for Sable Eye and the grey seas of Funday. Tides at the spring and the time has come to go. Ice my sail on a northern wind and I'll be on my way. Oh, but there's no one can go with me and there's no one by my side. Surely it's a long and a windy road to McLean's home.
Cutler Harbour? You asked me about Cutler. Why, that was where I was born and raised. Lived there all my days, man and boy, following the sea. Well, I say following the sea. I ain't never done much blue water sailing, mostly just coasting. You see, I got myself a little jib and mainsail boat, the Nancy and Betsy. And me nephew Willie and me, we runs it. We don't carry no hands. We really don't need no hands, 'cause though the mainsail's kind of heavy for Willie and me, we just ease the peak and let the mainsail flap. Well, now you'd think we'd have known every ripple and reef from here to Eastport and back again, but then again I recollect we was taking on a deckload of lumber for transporting off to Ram Island. And we got in off Goathead there when there come a hail from shore. It seems they was having a hair set-in party, what you might call a christening. Well, we dropped anchor. We lowered the jib, but we didn't have to lower the mainsail. The mainsail's kind of heavy for Willie and me, so we just eased the peak and let the mainsail flap. Well, we went ashore there, and when I tell you that they had 2 barrels of Barbados rum jacked up there on the shore, you'll understand me when I tell you that they were patting the baby's hair good and proper. Well, after a while, Willie and me, we started patting a few hairs ourselves. And then I says to Willie, look, if we're going to get out of here with this deck load of lumber, we better get a move on. So we went back aboard the Nancy and Betsy. We weighed anchor, raised the jib, but we didn't have to raise the mainsail. The mainsail was kind of heavy for Willie and me. We had just eased the mainsail and let it flap. So we raised the peak and set sail out of there, and were gone for no more than 5 minutes' time when they come in one of them fogs you get around Cutler, so thick you can't see your nose in front of your face. Well, I says, Willie, where be we? He says, I don't know. Well, I says, Willie, you go below decks and bring up that coastwise pilot, and maybe we'll find out where we be. Well, he brung it up, and it were kind of a tattered edition, and he no sooner got it open to the Cutler page when there come along a little puff of wind and blew that page overboard. Well, I says, Willie, what are we going to do now? He says, I don't know. Well, I says, Willie, I think we just better sit and think, and maybe it'll come to us what we should do. So we dropped anchor, we lowered the jib, but we didn't have to lower the mainsail. We just eased the peak and let the mainsail flap. And we sat there and we thought. He thought and I thought and he thought, until finally it come to me. I stood bolt upright. I slapped him on his back, and Willie, I said, I've got it. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to weigh anchor, we're going to raise the jib, we're going to raise the peak, we're going to set sail out of here, and we're going to keep a sailing, by God for mighty, until we get over into this next page here, and then we'll know where we be.
Since first I joined this wooden clod across the western ocean, she would neither wear nor steer nor stay. You sailor, where you bound to? She shipped it green both night and day across the western ocean. Here's to you lads, may you never be. You sailor, where you bound to? In a hungry bitch the likes of she across the western ocean. Oh, the times are hard and the wages low. You sailor, where you bound to? The western ocean is my home, across the western ocean.
Where's this road go?
Don't go nowhere, mister. Stays right here.
Well, I'm going to Portland.
Well, go right ahead. I'm not stopping you.
Well, Well, how many miles is it to Portland?
It's about 30,000 miles away you're headed, and there are some stretches of pretty wet wheeling.
Well, can I take this road to Portland?
You can, but Portland already has enough roads as it is.
There seem to be two signs here, and they both point to Portland, but they're pointing in different directions. Now, does it matter which one I take?
Not to me, it don't.
You know there isn't much between you and a fool.
No, nothing but this fence I'm leaning on.
Where the nearest gas station is?
No, I don't.
You don't know much, do you?
No, but then again, I ain't lost.
March 29th, 1910, the little brig Daisy did sail. The morning was clear and the sea was down, and we raised a great pot of whale. The captain had three of the boats lowered down, and in them the mates they did go. Mr. Delumba and Mr. Alvation, and Mr. Aeneas also. Blow up your oils and topsails, all your headsails down, for you'll never see the whale no more, or the cold South Georgia ground. Did rise a mile from the ship, and the other two mates made their kill. But Mr. Aeneas was caught in the pod where the whales were lying still. Mr. Aeneas stood still in the bow, and he had his lance in his hand. But the whale he had harpooned would not break away, and would neither sound nor run. It struck at the boat and it lifted her high, and the men fell out over the stern. We saw the flukes come a-thrashing down where Mr. Aeneas had been. Glue up your oils and topsails, all your headsails down, for you'll never see the whale no more, or the cold South Georgia ground. Now the captain had the stern boat lowered away, and we searched where the whales did sound. 5 men we gathered from out the sea, but Mr. Aeneas was gone. Blew up your oils and topsails, all your headsails down, for you'll never see the whale no more, or the cold South Georgia ground.
I've got to read you a poem. It's called a ballad, and it's written by Ruth Moore. She lives here on the island. She lives in Bass Harbor. She wrote this crazy little book of ballads. Most beautiful little book I've ever seen. It's called Cold as a Dog in the Wind Northeast. And this is the ballad of the night Charlie tended Ware. Now, a ware is a fish trap. Big stakes out, and you hang nets from it. Charlie had a herring ware down to Bailey's Bight. He got up to tend it in the middle of the night. Late October, midnight black as tar. Nothing out the window but a big cold star. House like a cemetery, kitchen fire dead. I'm damn good mind, says Charlie, to go back to bed. A man who runs a herring ware, even on the side, is nothing but a slave to the goddamn tide. Well, a man feels meager. A man feels old in pitch black midnight, lonesome and cold. Chills in his stomach like 4,000 mice, and the very buttons on his pants little lumps of ice. Times he gets to feeling it's no damn use. So Charlie had a pitcher full in his orange juice. Then he felt better than he had before, so he had another pitcherful to get him to the shore. Down by the beach rocks, underneath a tree, Charlie saw something he never thought he'd see. Sparkling in the lantern light as he went to pass, 3 big diamonds in the frosty grass. Well, he says, diamonds? Where'd they come from? I'll pick 'em up later on. I always wanted some. Then he hauled in his dory. She felt light as air. And in the dark midnight, rode off to tend Ware. Out by the Ware gate, Charlie found an old sea serpent swimming round and round. Head like a washtub, whiskers like thatch, breath like the flame on a Portland star match. Black in the lantern light, up he rose, a great big barnacle on the end of his nose. He looked Charlie over, surly and cross. Them fish you got shut up in there belongs to my boss. Fish, says Charlie. Fish in there? Why, I ain't caught a fish since I built the damn ware. Well, says the sea serpent, nevertheless, there's 10,000 bushels at a rough guess. Charlie moved the lantern, give his oars a pull, and he saw that the ware was brim-belay full. Fish rising out of water 1 trillion at a time, and the side of each and every one was like a silver dime. Well, says the sea serpent, what are you going to do? They're uncomfortable, and they don't belong to you. So open this contraption up and let 'em go. Come on, shake the lead out. The boss says so. Does, says Charlie. Who the hell is he thinks he can sit back and send word to me? Sea serpent swiveled round. He made a water spout. Keep on, brother, and you'll find out. Why, says Charlie, you're nothing but a lie so old you're hoary, so get your dirty whiskers off the gunnel of my dory. The sea serpent twizzled. He heaved underneath. He skun back a set of sharp yellow teeth. He come at Charlie with a gurgly roar, and Charlie let him have it with a port side oar, right on the noggin. Hell of a knock. The old sea serpent, he sunk like a rock. So go on back, yells Charlie, and tell the old jerk not to send a boy to do a man's work. Then over by the Ware gate, tinkly and clear, a pretty little voice says, "Yoo-hoo, Charlie dear." Now what, says Charlie, this ain't funny. And the same sweet voice says, "Yoo-hoo, Charlie honey." And there on the seine pole, right in the Ware, was a little green mermaid combing out her hair. All right, says Charlie, I see you, and I know who you come from, so you get too. He let fly his bailing scoop. It landed with a clunk. And when the water settled, the mermaid, she had sunk. Then the ocean heaved behind him with a mighty heave and hiss, and a thundery, rumbly voice remarked, "I'm goddamn sick of this." And up come an old man, white from top to toe, whiter than a daisy field, whiter than the snow, carrying a pitchfork with 3 tines on it, muttering in his whiskers and madder than a hornet. "My sea serpent is so lame that he can hardly stir, and my best mermaid, you've raised a lump on her, and you've been pretty sassy calling me a jerk, so now the old man has come to do a man's work. Look, says Charlie, why don't you leave me be? You may be the hoary old man of the sea, but I got a run of fish here shut up inside, and you keep on frigging around, you'll make me lose the tide. Well, the next thing that Charlie knew, he was lying on the sand. The painter of his dory was right beside his hand. He could see across the bay, calm and still and wide. It was full daylight, and it was high tide. Well, says Charlie, what am I about? His oars weren't wet, so he hadn't been out. Oh, he thought, diamonds underneath the tree. Seems to me I found some. I better go see. But he couldn't find any, not one gem. Only 3 little owl dungs with a frost on them.
I was digging clams in Dougal Flats when a low humming sound came to my ears. I couldn't quite rightly understand what it was, so I dug and dug until I came upon a small clam that I reckoned was emitting the hum. I heard some more humming sounds, and I dug some more and come up with some more humming clams. Well, since I played slip horn in the Penobscot Chowder Band, I knew a little bit about music, and I knew I might have a chorus in these clams. I brung 'em home, brought 'em a little box of mud, the same mud that I found 'em in, settled 'em down in there, and over the next few weeks singled out a soprano, alto, tenor, and bass clam out of the 100, 150 or so odd clams that hummed in that batch. Then by feeding them a little extra chopped liver and bacon when they sung in harmony by accident every now and then, I got 'em to sing Home of the Brave. And I took 'em out across the country on tour, from coast to coast. But then I made my big mistake. I booked 'em for a European tour, and I've regretted it ever since. I took 2 staterooms aboard the Queen Mary, 1 stateroom for my clams and 1 for me, and we had no sooner got out to the lighthouse off Nantucket, where there was ever so slight a swell, that them clams up took seasick and died. My pa, as he grew older, become a little balmy. I brung him down to Portland to see the big city sights. We was walking along Front Street, and a seagull flew in from the harbor overhead and let one drop right on Pa's bald pate. Well, I said, now, Pa, you stay right there. I'll be right back with a box of Kleenex. He said, son, don't you worry about that Kleenex, 'cause by the time you get back out here with it, that seagull will be more than a half mile from here.
That's a classic. You can go home and tell your children that. do that tune called Gulls in the Morning. I made it up when I was living on the Stephen Tabor. She's an old schooner that sails around here. I used to live on her in the winter. And it's about gulls, but more what they're doing than what they sound like. And it's in a slightly South American style because I wrote it for a friend of mine who's a guitarist, and he comes from South America.
I was raking leaves on one of them raw, foggy days you get along the coast of Maine in the fall, when Mr. Smith come out and asked me if I'd like to come in and get warmed up by the fire and have a little something to drink. Well, I said, Mr. Smith, I'd like first rate to come in and get warmed up by the fire, but if it's all the same to you, I'll not have anything to drink. You see, I haven't partook of spirits for over 35 years, but I recollect just like it was yesterday, that last time I had a drink. I was building boats in them days and also building coffins, and I recollect I'd just finished finished a catboat for Henry Furness's boy when Charlie Pierce come down. He run the general store and did some of the undertaking on the side. He asked me if I'd like to finish a coffin for him by Thursday. Well, I said, Charlie, it's kind of short notice, ain't it? And he said he knew it was, and he'd brought me down a jug of Barbados rum. Well, I didn't spare myself none, nor neither did I spare the rum, and Wednesday night I went to bed feeling pretty good with a job well done. Thursday morning, Charlie come down, and I showed him to the shed, and I noticed he kind of started some as he walked in through the door, and there that coffin stood, and it had a rudder and a centerboard on her.
I'd like to read you a poem called Drying Sails in Isle Ho. You'll have to pretend it's a little bit colder here than it is right now. Now, when the first October gale is gone, white summer lifts her head along the shores in silent light. The spruces bask along the hills, and yellow houses scattered up the fields slake themselves with sun against the winter. A little girl stands down among the rocks, unmoving, faded to blend among the stone, and considers the catch in stolid silence. She watches as she would a pausing bird that with the coming storm sought haven here in her front dooryard. Now it lifts its wings in summer's short return, but does not fly. Perhaps she knows that these will be the last white sails she'll see before the winter comes, she who had schooners moored where other folks would plant their gardens. Now she wonders why this migrant bird would spread its wings and yet lie quietly floating in the sun. The rest have flown a month ago, and there should be 7 months of snow before she finds one sudden morning some bright sail and looks and sees it's summer. Yet it's probably not at all important to her. She'd know the change of year as any child would find it in the feel of water, wind, and trees. She sees the long grass yellow down the field. She hears the loon come down to salt marsh pastures, finds it strange that all the seals are gone, and considers then that soon she'll play in snow. But still to her the boats send back the word. When they have gone, the white, calm days go too, and soon the spruce will darken and the fields run white with frost along the cresting granite. And so this last stray bird of summer brings with one bright day the sudden dream that still perhaps there's time to run in fields neglected when she thought the season was still young. And now she stops to watch the ketch's mainsail flapping slowly, not really watching it at all, but seeing instead in one clear, brittle moment all the universe of seasons, dreaming and endless, caught now between boat and water and island, and hearing herself thinking very carefully, this is the whole wide world, and at this moment I am 7 years and almost 4 months old, and halfway between that sailboat and this rock is all that's left of summer.
Oh, the times are hard and the wages low. You sailor, where you bound to? The Western Ocean is my home, across the Western Ocean. I thought I heard the old mate say, you sailor, where you bound to? One more pull and then belay across the Western Ocean. Here's to you, Johnny, we'll work no more. You sailor, where you bound to? Draw our pay and go ashore across the Western Ocean. Ah, the times are Sun is my home across the western ocean.
The proceeding was made possible by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Hollywood Television Theater presents Actor, a musical look at the early years of famous actor Paul Muni, starring Herschel Bernardi and Georgia Brown, produced and directed by Norman Lloyd.
Of Idaho.